Who's been through that living hell and you came back pretty quickly? It didn't take you all that long. It wasn't all that of a struggle. What did you have that created that bounce? Down in Mexico not too long ago, and he had some real problems with some of his internal organs and was ready for surgery. And so we did that, and that's where he felt it. So we dropped down through that, and he just had some major changes going on the next couple of days. I don't know what's happened with him since, but he had some real relief going on. And some shifting. So find a place, where do you feel it in your body? What is that distress? How does that feel? Be with that for a moment. So this is a pattern where we access that state, and wherever it is in the body, we associate into that and feel it, wherever you feel that in the body. We feel that and be with that for a moment. That part is the painful part, but then we just keep dropping down through. What we essentially do is metastate a person with a feeling of dropping. And there are several ways you can think about this dropping, or several metaphors for imagining it. It could be just a sense of dropping. And so a lot of times I'll do this with a person to get a person to have a feel. You know what it feels like when you just drop? And so I'll even get them to stand up and just drop, so they can get that feeling. Riding along an airplane, having a drop would be similar. Being in an elevator where suddenly there was a jump or a jar and there's a drop would be similar. Being on a roller coaster, and when you're coming up and coming down would maybe have that. It's the feeling of falling, but it's not like falling off of a building. It's just kind of a, that kind of a fall. So people have fear of falling. It's not that kind of a thing. It's just that jump. And that's the feeling we want to take and use for the drop down through. So getting that feeling of dropping down through something or falling through something. And what we'll do, we'll just drop down and down as it were. And so it's kind of metastating in reverse as we drop down. And we drop down until we get to the bottom, whatever that means and whatever that feels like, getting down to the bottom. So usually there's a sense that we get down to where, what do you feel now? And usually the answer is, I don't feel anything. It's just nothing. Or people will use things like the void or emptiness or the nothingness. And then we drop down through there. We drop down some more. And so just drop down. I usually like 3, 4, 5, number. I'm looking for a strong, resourceful state. By presupposition, there's a continuum going from really negative, less negative, less negative, less negative until it evens out, and then positive and more positive and more positive. And so by presupposition, we will fall and drop into more and more positive feelings states. And so we'll drop down until we get a very strong positive state. And then, of course, being with that state, whatever that positive state is, if it's love, if it's wholeness, or if it's compassion, whatever that is. And then we will metastate by bringing that back here to that first one. If the first one is fear and this is love, bring that love to the fear. And then we've been talking about kind of cleaning the pipes with it. Let this love just go down through all these levels. Just cleanse all those. Just let it affect each one of those. And we may do that a couple times. And so we call it's the drop down through. We call it drop down through to rise up.
Tend to be a continuum of bad to good, or can you have something where they say love and then they say emptiness and sadness and then they say happiness?
No, it'll be fear, it'll be dread, it'll be worry, it'll be the negative ones, and usually less and less until it gets down. I'm at the bottom. There's nothing here.
Okay.
So that's what it'll tend to be. So this describes kind of the process, a little diagram of the pattern and how we think about it. It's good for anything that's in the body. And in that sense, it's kind of it reverses probably what happened. Probably what happened was that at some time a person was in a state And they took this negative and layered that on. Then they added that layer and that layer and that layer, and they just kept doing it until they got to this place where it's in the body. And so we're going to drop down from that. We're going to drop underneath that, drop and keep dropping until we're out of it. And so that's how we play with this one. Does anybody have something like that? Something that's in your body, and it's been mind to muscle, and there's a pain, there's a distress from a somatic source. David? Okay. Okay. What do you feel?
I feel tension from here to about there.
Okay.
Sternum. It's
a tension.
a tension.
And
yeah.
and it's like tightening.
Yeah. It's
okay. So what triggers that? When do you have that?
Well, it's a good question.
Do you have it now?
Yeah, I do.
You have it right now?
Yeah.
Okay. You can feel that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have it when I don't when I don't really feel safe and I just don't value myself as much as I could.
Okay. When you don't feel safe and when you don't value yourself. And, like, what would trigger you not feeling safe?
Well, by either an internal or external threat or something that I would take as such.
Okay. So any time, like the rest of us would feel uncomfortable or not sure about something, that could do it?
Yeah.
Or you could just be minding your own business and do it to yourself?
I'm very gifted that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how you experience it? Is this tightening? And it looked like you started from your throat, like mid
yeah,
chest?
It's kind of, usually it starts about here. And,
okay.
And it goes to my...
It moves up.
It moves up to my throat and then kind of down in my chest and my shoulders. And
what does that mean to you? What does that feeling mean to you?
Well, that I'm nervous and that I'm not really worthy and not good enough.
Okay.
Yeah, not good enough.
We had talked a little bit about having some difficulty bringing the sense of appreciation to self.
Mm-hmm.
And does it feel like this kind of gets in the way?
It sure does.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you know what it feels like when you just drop through something?
Yeah.
When you maybe have you ever been in an airplane and dropped and the stomach kind of went up? You had that feeling dropping down through something. So what I want you to do is take that feeling of dropping down, be with that feeling, be with that tension as it starts in the middle of the chest and comes up and has that tightness and it spreads. And be with that feeling for just a moment. And then drop down underneath that. Drop down through that. And what's underneath there?
It's kind of dark.
Kind of dark? Okay.
I don't know. It's...
And what does it feel like?
Unpleasant.
Okay. Okay. Unpleasant.
Yeah, it's.
And do you feel something in your body as to what that dark unpleasantness is?
It's kind of being put in honey, so you feel constrained and.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Okay. So be with that for a moment. Just be with that feeling wherever you feel that, the darkness, the unpleasant, and once again, let's drop down through there. Fall down underneath that. And what's underneath that? What's underneath that?
I don't know, some sort of sadness, I guess.
Okay, sadness. Okay, so be with that sadness. Where do you feel that sadness at in your body?
Well, kind of at the same places.
Okay.
From,
right
from here, pretty much, but to the top of my head.
So now it goes to the top of the head. How do you know it's sadness? And you don't have to answer that out loud, but just how do you know? How do you know to call it sadness? Just be aware of that. Okay. And be with that sadness now, and drop underneath that. Fall down through there, and what's underneath the sadness?
I don't know.
Okay. Is there anything underneath the sadness?
No.
Feel anything?
Not truly, no.
Okay. So be with that nothing, because it has certain qualities if there's nothing there. So be with that nothing, and let's drop underneath that. Drop underneath that, and what's there?
I don't know.
Okay. Pleasant, unpleasant?
Oh, it's more pleasant.
It's more pleasant, and yet it's hard to know what that is. Do you sense that anywhere in your body?
Just a smile or something. I don't know. It's
Okay. So
nothing
just,
really.
it's a light, very light sense of pleasantness. So just be with that for a moment, the smile, and drop underneath that smile. And what's underneath that?
No.
Still not much of anything.
No.
Okay. Okay. So be with that and drop down. This time let's drop down. Let's really drop down through. And you may feel yourself falling underneath it. And you may like to just fall and fall, kind of like Alice in Wonderland, just tumbling down that rabbit hole, just falling and falling until you find something underneath there, however far you have to fall. And just underneath that smile, underneath that light level pleasantness, and what's way underneath there?
No.
Okay. So what are you feeling?
I'm feeling okay.
Feeling okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you know that?
Well, I'm more relaxed and
More relaxed?
not as tired. Not as much as I used to feel.
Okay. So now it's relaxed and not as tired. So let's drop underneath that relaxation. Just drop through that relaxation. Drop underneath there. And what's underneath the relaxation? Okay, so let's just keep falling and falling until we find something. And so you've had that feeling of just dropping, and so let's just drop underneath there. Because relaxation is nice, but let's drop underneath that to see what's before that, what's underneath that.
I don't know.
Okay. Be with the relaxation for a moment, because I want to take that and do something with that relaxation. So be with that and notice how you feel relaxed. And feel that relaxation. Let's bring it to that original feeling, the inadequacy or not being good enough or the tension or the stress. Bring it to that and just let that relaxation set the frame for that, and let it go down to the next level and to the sadness and then to the nothing. let that relaxation, as it were, just clean those pipes. And notice how that transforms things. So what is that like when we bring that relaxation to?
Not as heavy.
Okay. Notice where it is now. What's that original feeling, where that is. See if you can get that back as it was a moment ago, that tightness.
Well, yeah, I can still have it, but not as much.
Not as much. As you dropped down, you dropped into some pleasantness. There was real light emotion and then some relaxation. What would be the most powerful emotion to drop into as far as a resource?
I don't know, a secure sense of happiness? Something
A
like that?
secure sense of happiness. So do you know how to go there? A secure sense of happiness?
Yeah, well, it's just being in front of everybody, which doesn't help.
We'll just have happiness without secure happiness.
Okay.
Okay. So feel that, and let's bring that to that first feeling, and then to the second, to the sadness, to the nothing, and just let it, as it were, clean those pipes. And let that set the frame, touch, transform each of those feelings all the way down. That happiness. And what is that like?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay. Okay. Let me let you sit here for just a moment, and comments, questions on how to do this or some of the process for it. It is kind of an upside-down metastating process. But we start with where we feel into the body and be with that and then drop underneath that. So that's really the key, and that's the reiteration we do again and again.
Far down, how do you know when you hit bottom?
Well, usually the person says, there's nothing here.
Okay.
So when you get kind of out from under it, when it's there and you're kind of out from under it, there'll just be nothing there, and they'll talk about, I don't feel anything, there's nothing there, it's empty, it's the void. So they'll use language like that, and that's when to drop through there. Now, one time Bob said he had somebody drop, and she said that, well, I'm on the ground, and it's concrete. And he said, well, we'll get your jackhammer and just dig a hole and just drop down through there. Oh, okay.
You go even down further?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, that's the structure. Then what, do you take that state and then bring that one? When you get to the bottom, take the bottom one, and then bring it back through. Okay.
By presupposition, if I'm with an unpleasant emotion like tightness or tension, unpleasantness, and I drop under it, it's going to be less than that. And so it gets less and less until nothing. So that's why that continuum. And then by presupposition, the next one is going to be somewhat positive, and then a little bit more, a little bit more.
Okay, you brought them through that. And then I noticed you asked them what would be the most powerful emotion to drop into.
Okay. Now I threw that in there because usually a person will drop into something that's pretty positive. And so we brought that pleasantness, we brought that relaxation to it, and so I just threw that in there as what would be the most resourceful state to bring to this one, because I was not satisfied with just the relaxation, and it changed a little bit, but not significantly.
So you meditated. What can we bring to that?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we don't get what we feel is the only one, we can kind of bring it down to it. Okay. Standing up first.
Yeah, sometimes
more the body
yeah.
drop down.
Sometimes standing up and using the full body will have more effect, especially if a person has a hard time having that sense of dropping underneath something. So that's exactly where I would go. If somebody says, I can't drop underneath it, then well, let's stand up and let's literally drop and to get that feeling. So that's exactly what I would do.
Can you use an audio anchor, like, like a sound, like to drop them down, like whoosh?
Yeah, that might very well help to drop underneath that. Yeah. Yeah.
I see you cycling between steps 3 and 4. So that's not what you wrote up there. Is that something that you do often?
Yeah. Because what we're doing is the outcome we're going for is to reduce whatever that original feeling was. Right? And so in that sense, we just keep doing what we need to do to help to get to that outcome. So it'll be a lot of recycling. So the iteration, the dropping and the dropping and the dropping, and then getting the resource to bring that back. And sometimes. So sometimes they will not drop into the most resourceful one until after they've applied the resource, and then they can drop into something even better and use that. So let me have you test it now. That original feeling that you had when you came up, the tightness that went up, where's that now?
I don't feel it, that
Okay.
tightness.
Don't feel it at all?
Well, I do a little bit, but it's really not as strong
Okay.
as it was.
The other day, we had talked a little bit about bringing appreciation to self. Let's see what happens now.
Okay.
Okay. So think of something you appreciate.
Okay.
Is there anything you appreciate?
Yeah.
Yeah. So think about something you appreciate, something that you can really get into that and feel that appreciation.
Yeah.
And you can appreciate that. So feel that.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you have that?
Oh, I don't know. On a scale of 1 to 10, that's it. Yeah, good 9.
Oh, good 9. Oh, that's all. Okay, so you know how to appreciate.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so notice your internal dialogue when you appreciate something, and the breathing when you appreciate and appreciate. So you got that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So feel this about David. Feel this about you. And let this start transforming that sense of what can you appreciate of your mind, of your emotions, of your ability to move through the world, to appreciate you. And just let that appreciation grow, let it expand, to have more appreciation. And it may feel really strange and weird and uncomfortable at first, but do you have permission to appreciate yourself? And so just feel that about you. Whatever that's doing inside. So how's that settling?
I don't know yet.
Okay. Is it taking this time?
I need some time, I think.
Okay. Anything stopping you?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, sometimes it takes a while for it to settle in and find just the right way to be there. Would you want that self-appreciation?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I need some time.
Okay. Okay. So just be with that, and we'll take your time, and hopefully that'll be enough at least to start that process.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Give them a hand. And this is a good pattern for using for that kind of a thing, that if something won't go in, like appreciation, or somehow it just isn't there, then there may be something in the body that needs to be released and let go so that we can do that. And so that's the reason for that. Gary, you had a question or statement?
Oh, we got it.
Okay. Okay. Reg.
My comment is I've used this pattern fairly often, and sometimes that negative feeling doesn't get less and less to void. It actually sometimes gets worse.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never
and then
seen
you
that.
hit void in like
that.
a big way, you know, and then you've got to break through void, and then it comes up again.
Okay. One of the things, now I've not seen that personally, but I could imagine it happen. The thing that I've seen frequently is maybe this is fear, and then this might be more fear, and a person will go into fear and then anger, and so then I'll just collect all of that, because the person actually is cycling back and around. Oh, you got more anger now, and so let's drop down underneath all of that. And so I'll collect all of that, as it were, together, where you're cycling. You got fear, and then anger of fear, and fear of anger, and guilt. Well, let's drop down underneath all of that and what's there. And sadness oftentimes is one of the first things that, or one of the next to the last things that we get down to, sadness or hurt. And it's like that's how we built that up and got it mind to muscled into us. And so others who have used this pattern, other distinctions, other awarenesses, things about working with it. A lot of you who were at the training last year with Meta-NLP, Bob did this a couple times, I think, and used it because it is a good way of clearing out.
I've used this pattern a lot, and it seems to me that I have seen what Reg was talking about, it getting a little bit more of intense emotions near the bottom, but usually when that's been the case, the breakthrough has been just as equally intense and even more so that it really transforms the whole system.
Okay.
When that's just been my experience.
Okay. Okay.
Concern where it might get intense. Could that be because for some people to go down, it's a metaphor of what's supporting that, and therefore something is underneath, it would tend to be thought of as stronger? I'm just questioning.
Yeah, and
another theory that I have for that is that maybe, there's some sort of significant emotional experience there that was the root, and then there were layers on top, whereas sometimes people start with something that's kind of minor, and then it builds up and gets worse and worse through time, so it could just be a matter of like how it's sequenced and developed.
Yeah. Would you like to play with this, experiment with this, run this pattern, and just see how it works, especially if you've not ever run this? So let's take 15 minutes each and just run this pattern and play with it just to see what happens when you drop down through some things. It works for something that's in your body, so see if you can find something that would fit that category. Comments or questions, experiences with the drop down through?
My partner was thoroughly more than satisfied to not go to the bottom, and I didn't know if I had to say, nope, we need to keep going.
So where did you get?
I don't remember, but it was really good.
So you got to a good, positive place.
Yes.
So one of the things that sometimes happens is that somebody will drop from a negative to a positive. And it's like they just don't go through this. But they move down here, and that's what we want. We want to take a positive state and bring it back through.
I thought I had to just keep going until he was wasting it.
So sometimes they'll just skip what we might call the bottom or the emptiness or the nothingness or whatever. Okay, and we did not make that clear earlier. Okay. Other comments or questions or experiences with that? We'll go here and then to you next.
Ferris, is it very successful? You can do it for yourself instead of doing to another person?
This is one that I've heard lots of people just use it on themselves, and Last year we had somebody at one of the trainings who something had happened in their personal life, and we had just run this pattern, and she got in the elevator and used the elevator for that feeling and just dropped down through it and just to get it out of her body.
Yeah, and the second question, is it necessary that you apply all the positive resources, or is it enough just to use the latest one or the strongest?
Usually it's just enough just to use the latest one, but you could certainly use each and every one of those if you wanted to. How many have used this pattern? You've used it on yourself and dropped down through. Okay, so this is a good one for that.
Sometimes I wasn't clear about what wording to use for the drop down thing, just the drop down or
just drop down through.
Drop down, that's the wording?
Yeah.
Go down.
Yeah, just drop down through that, and what's below that?
Because my patient there, he was saying that, well, how would you word that? And we said, well, drop down. What is good for you? So we came up with something there. Just trying to explore that.
With a lot of these patterns, I would recommend using the language of the pattern unless a person has a problem with it, and then explore. But just use it. And the more you assume that it's right and it's going to work and it's resourceful, they'll just go with that. Pattern on page 67, supercharging your attitude. In one way, we've been doing this around specific attitudes, but I'd like to use this as a way of pulling together a lot of things and summarizing. If indeed an attitude itself is a gestalt state that we can install as a frame of mind, this holistic term, attitude, then is a full mind-body-emotion stance towards something. It includes our mental stance, our emotional stance, our physiological stance. And so now as we start thinking about what attitude do I need for work, for discovery, for relationship, for creativity, for persevering, what attitudes do I need? What attitudes do I need to eliminate? Which ones do I need to build and develop and install? Which ones do I need to juice up or to supercharge? And so identify an attitude that you'd like to juice up. So for just a moment, just kind of scan through the everyday parts of your life. And we've looked at so many things over these 7 days. What attitude, in what context, toward what person or what place would you like to build and develop as a supercharged attitude that will enable you to get on board with something and go for it and stay and sustain and maintain that? So what attitude would you like to have that would indeed make your life better? So that's what we'll do as we describe that. As you describe that, what would you call that attitude? It could be the eye of the tiger attitude for motivation. It could be a determination or resilient attitude. It could be an attitude of just uninsultability, because that's an attitude. That's a frame of mind. So what attitude? Who else has that attitude? It might be something you can model. Somebody has that attitude. How is it valuable? How is it important to have that attitude? And what would allow you to do or to experience? So step one is identifying what attitude that you would like to develop and to build up. You might even create a menu list of some attitudes, or even go on an attitude shopping list, kind of looking for what are some of the attitudes that allow some people just to move right through some things, the right kind of attitude. So step two, as we design this, as we design engineer, specify how you want to supercharge your attitude, make it more profound or powerful. So in what ways, what qualities, what would make it compelling or memorable, and what would affect it so that it can be fully designed in a way that serves you well, that supplements your attitude. There's a couple patterns here in this section about metastating yourself with love, so that you feel love and you can generate and give out love, or appreciation, and so these would be some of the qualities that we can add and enrich our attitude. And then, of course, we're going to do that metastating process, access, amplify, and apply to that primary state so that we supercharge it and then install it in all of our tomorrows. So in building up an attitude and in choosing our attitude, what attitude would you like to have, given anything that might occur or an event?
A blessing, I am a blessing, they are a blessing.
Okay, so there's an attitude. And so as we design this, then is that texturing quality, how would I want to qualify it? And what pieces of thought, what pieces of emotion, what pieces of behavior would texture that and give it the kind of quality so it's balanced, it's appropriate, it fits with my style, my self-definitions, my way of being in the world, my energy. And so that's what we want to do. What I find with this pattern is that it really gives us a way to take charge of our attitudes, and especially if we find ourselves in an attitude of mind that really does not work that well for ourselves or others, then we can start redesigning it. So what attitude would you like to take away, especially those of you leaving after today, take away from here so that it'll be your attitude that will enable you to keep whatever learnings and experiences that you take away from here? Supercharging your attitude. In what areas or contexts would you like a supercharged attitude of resilience, optimism, efficiency, creativity? So an attitude of creativity. So let me work with somebody. We'll supercharge someone's attitude. Scott? So what supercharged attitude would you like?
Resilient, systemic, boldness. I'll use boldness.
Resilient, systemic boldness. Okay. Okay. When would you want that? Would it be context specific for certain things?
Specific to work.
To work.
Specific to work.
Okay. And there would be some triggers to which you need to be resilient and systemic in your thinking. And what was the last one?
Boldness.
Boldness. Boldness. What would be the primary state that will bring all of this to?
I think my general attitude towards the work that I do.
Okay.
To put some context, one of the struggle points of being in a role as a change agent in an organization, I don't necessarily control everything. I'm part of a system that I'm there to influence, but may not necessarily want to be influenced.
Okay.
And be able to yet maintain an attitude that this is doable.
Okay. These three qualities that you want to add to it, systemic and resilient and boldness, are they all about that? Or would there be resilience about that, and then systemic about the resilience, and then boldness about the systemic? Or how are
they sequenced? Boldness is on top.
That's the outer frame.
That's the outer frame.
Okay.
Systemic, resilience, and then boldness.
Okay. Kind of in that kind of a process. So you've already accessed resilience, and that resilient. How easily can you step into that and just take on that frame of mind of being resilient, of bouncing back, and if you get knocked down, you're up again and going. Okay, so that's an attitude. You know that attitude. Have you experienced and felt that attitude? So you know the feeling in your body when you have that almost in your face kind of attitude of, knock me down, I'm back.
Yes.
I'm not going to be down for long. Okay, so you know that one. Okay, so imagine taking that to work. Resilient. And however you express it, and whatever internal dialogue that gives you that knowing, and then how that feels in your body, and how you manifest it by your way of moving through the world at work. Okay. When we add systemic to that, what happens then, and what does that systemic mean to you? Systemic.
It's shifting to fourth position and being able to see patterns.
Oh, okay.
And recognizing that it brings and sees the opportunity too, because it's recognizing that influence happens in small places and being able to do it in those.
Okay. So while you got this attitude of, I'm not going to be knocked down and stay, there's also this ability to step back to fourth position, see the system, see the whole process. And when you can see the whole system, then what is that doing for you? How are you feeling?
Very excited. There's an invigoration.
Okay. Because you're seeing patterns.
I can see the patterns.
And what does that mean to you when you see patterns?
Seeing the patterns helps to understand the flow of the whole the process and how it's moving in a direction, and helps to solidify my understanding of what I need to do to help facilitate it in that direction.
So stepping back to the systemic perspective, seeing that, understanding that, then gives you what, the key leverage point, and you're kind of in the know, kind of clarity. Okay, and that's what you mean by systemic resilience. A resilience that you always have the big picture.
The big picture, and yet can chunk it down to very practical areas.
Okay. And when you add that, and I guess you add that by stepping back and stepping into fourth position. Is that how you get there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's also a sense of awareness that even though I'm stepping back, I'm also part of it. So it's somewhat, there's a paradoxical feeling to that.
Okay. So while you're stepping back and being a part of the system. And
I can see myself in it, too.
Okay. So as you add that, notice how that affects your mind, your attitude, your eyes, your neurology, how you move through the world of work with that. And then when we add boldness, what does that mean for you when you add boldness to all of that?
It's just it's a sense of going for it, of really, moving forward and seeing the patterns, being able then to exercise some action and bring change. But it's textured with patience.
So bold patience.
And I'll say wisdom.
Okay.
And there's a linguistic aspect to it too.
A linguistic?
Well, being able to a communication aspect.
Just say.
To be able to say the right thing at the right time.
Okay, so part of boldness is letting what you're thinking and feeling be known and expressing. What else does boldness do? When you bring that boldness, what else are you doing? You said going for it. Expressing self.
Modeling.
Okay.
Modeling for others.
Okay.
Being willing to do that.
So try on that boldness and bring that boldness to that systemic mindset consciousness, which is about the resilience and that boldness. And because you've set these things reflexively back onto yourself, just let them go into a spin and move around and around until they really settle down into your body, into your posture, your attitude, into your mindset. And how does that feel?
Feels good.
Okay. Does that supercharge your attitude?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
Okay. So if you took all of this into your work environment, then you've got the right attitude to really make things happen and be effective as a change agent.
Yes. Yes. I'm taking it because I'm trying to get the right metaphor here, because there have been times where the predominant metaphor is the salmon swimming upstream. And now the salmon has rockets.
Jet-propelled salmon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what it's like?
Feels that way now.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you aligned with that? Are you fully and completely aligned with that? Is any part not yet aligned?
It feels very aligned.
Okay. Notice how it affects your sense of self, who you are in that environment, and who you are becoming, who you will become if you take this week after week, month after month. How this affects that. Notice how it affects your sense of your resources and power. Notice how it affects your sense of your relationship with others, your rapport, your ability to build relationships, build connections, build team in that context of your work. And feel aligned with all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's balanced and ecological?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. Wow. Maybe we should take this away from you. Maybe you'd be too dangerous with this.
I have practice with fun. No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. And this is yours, and you can keep this. You can have this when you want it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
How did the supercharging your attitude pattern go?
We have attitude.
Yeah, I was waiting for someone to say, "What do you?" That's right. Tomorrow we're going to really shift gears. We're going to go to mind lines, and it's a very linguistically driven and based model that we're going to do. It's conversational reframing. And so as we go to mind lines tomorrow, we're going to be revisiting the meta model. And in some ways, we're going to shift gears so much from what we've been doing these days that has been very, very personal, because we've been metastating ourselves with the thoughts, the feelings, the frames that support us, that change us. And so I know that some of you have really had some transformations going on. It's been very personal, a lot of awareness of things like that. And so we'll take a deep breath, and we'll do something different in the next 2 days. We'll have some new people coming in tomorrow. 2 days after that, when we do meta programs, the meta programs, because that's the filters, that's the lenses that we look at the world. It'll also be another shift of gears as we look at that meta-level model of NLP. And we're going to do something brand new that those of you who will be here for that, it'll be brand new. We'll be experimenting as we play a meta game, a meta detective game. It's a board game. We've just put it together. Michelle and I kind of created it on the plane right over here. And we put it together. So that'll be a lot of fun playing with that as we read people and read meta programs. We'll have 5 or 6 more people coming in for that one. And then we'll end up by doing a lot of integration stuff, some trance work, some modeling work. As the last days, we pull it together in that way. We will do the modeling presentations on the last 2 days. The last 2 days, we'll do a couple of the groups and 3 of the groups. And tonight at 7:30, we'll spend some time talking about modeling with the matrix, and we'll answer some of the questions about how to do the presentations. So that's kind of where we're going in the next 7 days. We have a number of people leaving us tonight, tomorrow, the next day or so, as they've finished up the Neural Semantic Certification Training. 3 days of Personal Genius, 4 days of Living Genius. And so we're going to take a few minutes. We're going to pass out the certificates and give you a chance to say whatever, well, not whatever, but say a few words. So access a state of just saying the appropriate thing. Appreciation. I suppose at this point we need to ask, what is a neurosemanticist? Because the certification is that you've had 7 days of metastates. You've been using the metastate model and the neurosemantic model to look at neurosemantics. We're still trying to find our way to really describe neurosemantics, but neurosemantics, like NLP, is about running your own brain and managing the meta levels. And it's about how we get meaning in our bodies. So probably the shortest quick is how we get meanings in our bodies so that our bodies can have that muscle memory, and we can, in that way, feel these highest meanings and feel our way through things and through life and to use it. And so we've been doing a lot of that, coaching our bodies how to feel. And so as a neurosemanticist, you have the right and the privilege to coach your body and other bodies to feel great ideas and to use the texturing and the gestalting of the mind so that we can really step into the very best and the richest kind of states. So that no longer do we have to just put up with vanilla states, but we can have richly colored, textured states of the right kind of quality that makes the experiences we want to have just right for us. And so the neurosemantic certification is certifying that you understand the model, you have a good working basis for it, and the competency to metastate. So you have the right and privilege to jump logical levels in a single bound, to solve meta models, to slay and transform and tame dragons, to walk kindly and gently in your own mind and in the mind of others. And so as we read your names and as you come up here to make that whatever you want to say with regard to whatever this means to you or what you're going to do with this, this is certifying that you're a neurosemanticist.
Denise, please come up. Which one? Kenton?
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The floor is yours. Well, all I can say is I have an attitude of gratitude for all of you, and I hope we meet in the meta planes in the future.
Kevin?
All right, well, thanks, guys. And I just want to thank all of you guys. I know I haven't had a chance to meet some of you yet. It's hard to believe that after 7 days there's a few of you I haven't done patterns with. But I really appreciate the diversity in this room and just the richness that each of you has shared with me. And Michael, also just these, the different patterns we've done. I can't think of a better set of qualities that I would like to incorporate into my life. However you decided on these, I don't know how you picked these, but that was just the perfect set. So thank you for that. Thank you.
And Theo?
It was great to be here, great to meet you all, specifically the animals effect. You know, last year I said something which I really regretted. I mean, it was just so funny, right? That, you know, leading the field and, you know, so that, and also opening up so that we have a chance actually to get to know it. It's a real privilege. I want to thank all the coaches and trainers in here and to you all. I learned so much from meeting, unfortunately not all of you, but most of them. It was a big, big help. You know. Wonderful. I had a wonderful time. Thank you.
And Ray.
Whoa.
Almost has returned.
Well, I've already heard words that just resonate in me from people here. When I was 13 years of age, I was given a book called Your Mind and How to Use It. 13, that was 16 years ago.
Right.
That shifted my state. And goodness gracious me, how could you ever sum up the 7 days? For me, it's like, this is just so easy, really. What have we been doing all these years? And I ask myself that. So I want to thank Michael for his brilliance and all of the coaches and meeting some of you. And even though I haven't met lots of you, I've got a sense of you. And so I'm certainly going to take this forward with everything that I do. So thank you all.
Thank you. And Dr. Bob?
So, years ago I took dancing from Lila, and Lila insisted we do one thing, and we constantly changed partners. And because she insisted that in the changing partners, the learning got deeper. And as I had this experience here with each of you and every one of you, from the coaches to Michael to my partners out here, I learned so much from each of you, and I'd like to thank you for that, sharing that learning.
Kate.
I'm very glad to have been here last week, and it's been a great opportunity. I've just started to know a little bit about NLP and neurosemantics, and it's a new world that's opening up. So I hope to see many of you in the coming years. Thank you.
Where's John? There.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody here. You know, I really feel blessed. I'm going to take this in every area that in my life, in my job, in my practice, and in me. You know, I really feel the difference. I want to thank Michael. I think you're brilliant, and I feel brilliant.
David Scott.
Just thankful I was here, and I really appreciate meeting all of you, getting from you. I definitely need to change person when I came.
All right. I've been. Some of you know that I'm an NLP trainer and coach myself, and I've been actually trying to read Michael's books for a couple of years. So I needed to go to a particular state.
You didn't know it was California.
So last year, I took the dive and fell right through. And I started reading, and I realized, actually, this is something really valuable. So it immediately made me aware that I needed to go and meet this person.
And yeah, to sum up this whole week, the first 3 days for me were a little bit chaotic, I gotta tell you. So many processes. I just thought, where's the rapport in all this? You know, it's process. And so I kind of missed that. But in the next days after that, it really, I saw Michael work in a nice way. And saw a lot of people work in a beautiful way. And saw myself work in a lovely way. So actually, there was a lot of good work going around, and I really appreciate being here. And it's made me definitely a better trainer, and it's really helping me understand some processes. So I'm taking this home and I'm going to use this. So thank you very much. Thank you. No joke.
Well, I feel really privileged and lucky to have had the opportunity to learn these skills and understandings, and a large part of the ability to learn was just being with a lot of people who were so diverse and so talented themselves, and just wonderful people to work with, and that was a big help in learning. So thank you all. Thank you, Michael, and all the trainers.
Well, this has certainly been a missing piece for me. When I first saw about neurosomatics, I noticed there was something that was different about it. And I've had a real hunger for people that have expressed aliveness. And I know when I was in my 20s, I was hanging around some Italian-American groups, because they expressed, I mean, they would argue, playing bocce, they would argue over a 30-second an inch from 50 feet away. And they didn't care. I mean, they were expressing themselves. But I noticed being around them, I could express more of myself. And that's what we have here, is bringing back this aliveness, this spirit that we have, bringing it forward. So I am honored to be part of you during this past week, and it's a pleasure to be on this path with all of you.
We're going to take a few minutes to do a final induction. But before we do that, comments, questions as we wrap up this evening.
I'm going to miss you guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to be here tomorrow. Okay,
We'll talk about you tomorrow.
It's hard to go after him because I thought he did such a brilliant job, and I don't think I can do much better than what he did. But I think I feel like telling a story. Is that okay if I tell a story?
No.
For those of you that don't want to hear a story. There used to be a tradition associated with NLP, and what it was all about was, at the end of the day, before we had the skills to do inductions, like Michael has to do inductions, there was always a story told. And in the passage of time, since I started, a number of these stories have cropped up, and I think this one might be appropriate at this time. How many of you know where the state of Oregon is? All right. Well, Oregon is on the north coast of the United States, and this story takes place in a small town that is built around a cove. The cove is canted in such a way that maybe one or maybe even 2 times a year, storms would come into this cove, and they would literally turn the town upside down. So when the weather reports indicated that the weather was going to be particularly bad, the town mobilized. And they went out and they battened down the hatches and they tied down the garbage cans and they secured all the signs in preparation of the storm. And there was one particular aspect of this town that the people took a great deal of personal pride in. They had this very pristine white beach. And it was practically, the sand was practically granular. It was so smooth it could have almost been mistaken for a flower. And the town literally, if anything was not in the garbage can and something, a wrapper or something had fallen onto the ground, then what would happen is anybody would come by and pick it up because they just took such pride in maintaining this pristine beach. But when the storms came, the storms would literally get into the harbor and reach down and tear the bottom of the ocean up and throw it all over their beach. So in this one particular instance, the storm was predicted, the people battened down the hatches, and sure enough the storm came in. And it broke the telephone lines, and it knocked down signs, and it sent garbage cans cartwheeling through the streets and banging into doors. Finally, when the storm subsided, the first thing the people did was break the telephone lines because they needed a way of being able to reach the outside world. And then people got in their pickups and went around and started picking up the debris and helping one another with the signs. And this was a particular Saturday morning. The entire town met down at the beach. And it was cold. It was one of those gray days like you saw this morning. You could probably hear the boats out in the harbor. You might even be able to hear a seagull, but it was cold and gray. And the grayness of the day kind of set the tone. Everybody was huddled with their heads down in their collars, and they could feel the wetness come up through the bottom of their feet, making it even a little bit colder. They stood around with garbage cans. And at an appointed hour, they all started moving down the beach, picking up the debris. And what had happened in this particular storm was the entire beach was littered with seaweed and driftwood and starfish, thousands of them. And so they continued to walk down the beach, picking up everything and throwing them in bags. At about 10 o'clock, the actual fog had started to lift so that you could see the boats going out, not just hearing the horns and the tooting of the horns and the clanging of the bells, but you could literally see it. And at the far end of the beach, there was a figure. Where everybody else in the town was walking towards this particular figure on the far end of the beach, it was moving towards us. And what I remember about it, I thought initially it was a young boy, but it turned out to be a young girl, and she was working feverishly. And so we continued to move down. They brought a coffee truck. It was a coffee break. They brought a coffee truck down, and everybody started moving around a coffee truck. And I remember telling her I started walking down the beach until I got close enough where I could see her, and I said, "What are you doing?" I thought, well, maybe I didn't say it loud enough. I said, "Don't you know that won't make any difference?" And she picked up a starfish, and she threw it back into the ocean, and she said, "For this one it will." And so, for us, you who will be out there casting the starfish back into the sea, you're not seedlings anymore. You are now casters of starfish.